Against the backdrop of the misty forest, shrouded in rain, the temple rises. There is an oppressive silence, broken only by the sound of rain falling on the stone steps. As they approach the gate, a group of men in black robes respectfully call out to the temple's occupants, apologizing for the intrusion and asking permission to enter. The rain intensifies, jets of water creating circles on the puddles, emphasizing the tension in the air and the readiness for the unknown. Inside the temple, a young man stands. He is clearly disturbed by what is happening, but stares resolutely ahead, keeping his thoughts to himself. The gathered people watch him with respect and interest. Suddenly, a black-clad figure emerges from the shadows, its commanding gaze and lightning bolt behind its back emphasizing strength and authority. With a serious expression, the man notices the young man's unexpected presence in the temple, expressing his surprise. The gathered people ask the young man for shelter from the rain, hoping for his kindness and hospitality. The young man listens quietly, but his eyes are wary. He is trying to understand who these people are and why they are here. The leader of the group feels respected by his students, despite the age difference. Perhaps they believe that he is guarding this temple and keeping it in order. The young man, observing the group, concludes that they seem to be decent people who mean no harm. He tells them that he found this temple by chance a few years ago and has been living here ever since. The young man invites the guests to make themselves comfortable, but warns them that he needs one of the rooms for his personal use. The leader thanks the young man for his hospitality, promising to honor his wishes. He instructs his disciples to choose places to sleep, but not to come too close to the young man's room so as not to disturb his peace. The disciples confirm his words, accepting the instructions with full respect. In the rain, the disciples begin to disperse from the temple, following the leader's orders and preparing for bed for the night. The young man notices the clan symbol on the clothing of the guests and realizes that they all belong to the same group, wondering what they might be doing. The young man realizes that he has more important things to do than take care of his guest. He heads towards one of the rooms, walking confidently through the rainy courtyard. As he approaches the doors, he opens them loudly, as if he has long been accustomed to this ritual. Inside, in the warm light of the room, he announces cheerfully, "It's dinner time for my little ones." His face lights up with a smile. He is clearly pleased and enthusiastic. With his playful gait and ringing laughter, the young man calls his boys to the table, anticipating how they will eat. There are huge vessels on the floor, and he eagerly opens the lid of one of them, observing what is inside. Inside the vessel are small creatures, his babies, waiting for dinner. The boy, apologizing for his late visit, offers food to his guests, holding a large clay vessel. He removes the lid to treat them to something special. Inside turns out to be an unusual creature, a large spider with the name Black Earth Tiger. Originating from Hainan, this tarantula grows up to 20 centimeters and has a distinctive coloration reminiscent of a tiger. The boy addresses the spider by name, offering it food, and marvels at its appetite. He notes how his pet, which used to be the size of a fingernail, is now much larger, and this makes him happy. After feeding him, he decides it's time to pay attention to the next pet, opening another drawer. The boy opens the drawer to find a Bovanley cave gecko lying on a soft bedding, which is native to the area and has distinctive stripes on its body. With visible admiration, the boy examines the gecko, calling it cute. He rejoices at the opportunity to observe the pet, for in his previous life he barely had enough money for himself, but now he has the opportunity to surround himself with such creatures. Suddenly, the boy gently touches the gecko with his finger, but it reacts violently, shocking him. The boy recoils fearfully from the gecko, realizing that his past life as a streamer is not easily forgotten. A black screen pops up saying that he was a streamer, and the next thing he remembers is that he had 1 million subscribers on a channel called Thrill Collector, where the main content was venomous animals. The boy recalls fans asking for a live broadcast to celebrate reaching 1 million subscribers, which was the beginning of his adventure. There is growing outrage in the comments to his video, with subscribers questioning why the snake has not yet been found and even suggesting that they are being duped. They demand proof and the appearance of the black mamba on the screen, hinting at the complexity of the task. The hero, sitting in his apartment, is disappointed to realize that he has failed to find the black mamba. He ironically remarks that such snakes are not yard cats that can be caught anywhere. The protagonist sits on the couch in his room, rubbing his neck tiredly, and says that he will rest for a while before going out to look for the snake again. Messages from viewers pop up on his phone screen, encouraging him to keep going and commenting on how exciting this game is. He stands up, stretching and looking around the room, wondering why it is so hard to find the snake, as if it were a challenge. Joking questions pop up in viewer messages. What happens if a snake is in the house? What should you do if it bites? Someone even suggests just accepting death. At one point, he notices a black mamba lurking on the refrigerator. Reaching out, he looks at the snake, but instantly feels the bite, the venom spreads through his body. The viewers in the chat room panic, not knowing what has happened, and rush in with alarming messages. Terrified, realizing the danger of the situation, the protagonist soon loses consciousness and falls, dying on the spot. After the incident with the black mamba, the protagonist, already in another place, is surprised to hold a small yellow lizard in his hands. He humorously remarks how funny it is that despite his futile attempts to find the snake, one has been around all along. A man in long dark clothes with his hair piled high stands at the door and knocks, clearly waiting politely for someone to open it for him. The protagonist, hearing the knock, goes to the door and, a little surprised, opens it. In front of him is the very man who, judging by his clothes and behavior, clearly belongs to the upper class. He thanks the hero for his kindness and invites him to join his family for dinner. The young man reacts dumbfounded at the news of the captured deer, clearly not expecting to hear such news. His face expresses surprise and slight confusion as he utters a deer. Immediately, a craving for fresh meat overwhelms him. He imagines something delicious and appetizing. However, upon reflection, he remembers his past meals and, losing his composure, apologizes to those around him with a sad look, remembering how he only ate snakes and lizards. Feeling grateful for the opportunity to eat normally, the young man promises that he will be forever grateful for this treat, cheering himself and those around him on. The man he thanks only grins, beckoning him to follow. At night, rain begins to fall. A fire is lit in the camp, near which meat is roasting on a large stick, creating a cozy scene where our hero watches the cooking process with admiration and impatience, not hiding his emotions. The man asks the young man to be patient, for the meat must roast a little longer, and while the meat is cooking, he decides to ask the young man a question. The young man notices with an expression of slight embarrassment that the guest seems to have realized his insatiable interest in the meat that is roasting on the fire. He is slightly embarrassed and nervous, but responds respectfully, ready to answer the guest's questions. A man observing the young man asks a few questions. He wonders how long he has been living alone in the temple and how old he is. The young man, hesitating, replies that he is probably about 14 years old, but because of an old head injury he doesn't remember exactly. He tries to hide the truth so as not to arouse suspicion. The man is surprised to realize that the young man lives here alone and asks another question about his occupation. The young man explains that he has no special skills, so he earns money by catching snakes and selling their skins. This elicits respect from the man, who admires the young man's bravery in catching such dangerous creatures at such an age. The young man modestly replies that he is used to it by now. The first piece of meat is finally ready, and the old man offers it to the young man, believing that he is the hungriest of all. The young man accepts the piece with sincere gratitude, barely holding back tears of joy as he admits that he hasn't eaten real meat in a long time. He enthusiastically dives into the meal, savoring every bite. The protagonist happily devours the meat, filled with a sense of happiness, as if he hasn't eaten normal food in forever. His satisfied face does not escape the attention of the two men, who watch him with light amusement, noting his excellent appetite. A man with black hair decides to share with the young man the reason they are here, and starts the conversation by noting that they are looking for something unusual. The intrigued hero is a bit surprised when he hears the question about something strange. When the man clarifies exactly what it is that they are looking for that is strange, the old man adds firmly that since their young friend has taken them in, he should tell the truth. The man with the beard, turning to his companion, confirms that the hero deserves to know that they are here to find a very rare blue-spotted scolopendra. The young man listens in confusion as it is explained to him that they are looking for a giant scolopendra with bright blue spots on its body. He is clearly shocked by its size. He is horrified to clarify just how big it is, and the man next to him replies that the adult specimen could swallow him whole. The guy is shocked, not believing that a scolopendra could be that huge. He begins to realize that he may have traveled not just back a few hundred years, but to a completely different world. The man next to him says with a smile that frightens him a little. A wise old man with a white beard calms him down, explaining that they came here precisely to catch this creature. The boy is surprised, assuming that they want to keep the scolopendra in their home. The elder and his companion laugh at such an idea, finding it absurd. They explain that they need the scolopendra to create a cure. The young man is still puzzled and does not understand how they are going to make a cure from such a dangerous creature. He begins to doubt that these people are simple drug dealers. He finds it hard to believe that something useful can be made from a scolopendra. The elder tells him that despite all the difficulties, they want to try to get the creature to help his granddaughter, who is seriously ill and can't even get out of bed. The boy listens anxiously and, after clarifying about the granddaughter, gets the answer that it is about the elder's daughter. He realizes that those are desperately searching for a remedy to cure her, but doubts that the scolopendra will be able to help. He then reasons that the poor scolopendra is likely to die, but remembering the hospitality of these men, he decides he must help them. He cautiously asks the man, but is immediately caught off guard when he is asked the counter question of whether he has seen her. The guy is slightly embarrassed and admits that no, he's never met her. The young man says he has never seen a giant scolopendra with blue spots, but his smile suggests that he knows something. Then, the boy decisively says that he seems to know where it might be. The hero reflects on his unique ability to understand reptiles, even if he did die from a poisonous snake bite. His knowledge of venomous creatures surpasses all others, and he notes that out of 20,000 species of reptiles, 10,000 are venomous. All of this knowledge is stored in his head. He heads confidently to the book he picks up off the floor and reminds himself that millipedes are no exception to his field of knowledge. When it comes to poisonous creatures, he is truly invincible on the subject. With shining eyes, he opens the book, showing his confidence and determination to use his knowledge to its fullest potential. The young man, holding the book firmly in his hands as if drawing strength and knowledge from it, realizes that he has finally found the information he needs. His gaze is filled with confidence and determination, and with a slight chuckle, he declares that he knows where to find the giant scolopendra they have been looking for. The man asks if it is true, and the old man wonders where it happened. The young man reflects thoughtfully on what he has heard. He then asks where and when the search took place. He is told that the search was conducted to the north and east, mostly during the day, with special attention to the area near the river. After getting the gist of it, the young man realizes the reason for what is happening. He notes that it is not surprising that no one has come across the scolopendra, and confidently declares that everything is now clear to him. We are told about millipedes, which are representatives of arthropods. They have a wide range of territorial activity, but need shelter to maintain temperature and humidity. Interestingly, unlike most insects, millipedes have a weak membrane and breathing holes on the surface of the shell, which makes them dislike being in water. These creatures need high humidity but cannot tolerate large amounts of water. In places without water, they won't live long. A young man explains that the giant scolopendra probably lives in the jungle and not by the river. One is surprised, as he had information that they live near a river or in trees. The young man points out that you can find small scolopendras in such places, but they are looking for a huge one. If the scolopendra is that big, a rotten tree or a place under a rock by the river would not suit it, as it would not be able to hide there. The men looked at each other, trying to understand what was happening. The man wonders where they should look for the scolopendra. He promises a reward if they are directed to the right place. The young man confidently points west, adding that they should look near the mountains. He explains that centipedes rest under warm rocks during the day and come out at night to search for food. Under the cover of night, a group of men set out into the mountains. A man standing on top of a rock observes what is happening. A member of the group expresses doubt, asking if the young man could have made a mistake, but the leader responds with a question, indicating his confidence in their actions. A group of people are wrapping up their day in the woods. The leader orders a signal arrow to be launched to alert the others. A bright flare is fired in the night sky, illuminating the surrounding area. Around the campfire, the group members discuss the boy who, despite his lack of experience, may have pointed them in the right direction. They are amazed at his intelligence and hopeful of his knowledge. Leela reflects on his daughter Wa-un, who was prophesied to be a great talent of the Tang clan, and worries that the heavens have taken her to their place. The elder returns and is greeted. He asks about the results and is told that there are none. The elder also notifies that they haven't found anything either. He's concerned about Wa-un's condition, which may not last more than 3 months. Doubts are growing about being able to find the scolopendra in 10 days. Father and son discuss how they couldn't find any trace of the critter. The son suggests traveling south in search of it. The old man agrees, noting that there really isn't a soul in the area. Suddenly he realizes that this is the key, the absence of any creatures. With surprise and joy, they realize they are in the right place. The man asks if his father felt anything, but the man replies that it is precisely the absence of the presence of any creature. They realize that there is really no one here. The elder begins to realize that they are at their destination, for the past 3 days they have found nothing at this stone mountain. For 3 days they have found no signs of life. The man notices the lack of animal tracks and wonders about it. Suddenly he realizes that this may be a clue. The elder confirms the hunch, pointing out that in such a large area, the absence of animals seems strange. They conclude that the creatures have all either escaped or been eaten by the scolopendra. The elder confidently declares that the monster they're looking for is here, and it will help heal Wa-un. The man was overjoyed, for they are finally at their destination. Soon, everyone feels a shivering sensation. They are panicked and don't realize what is happening. One of them exclaims, surprised at what is happening. Suddenly the ground begins to shake, causing people to back away. They scream in fear and incomprehension. An explosion raises debris and flames into the air, causing more chaos. The elder, watching what is happening, wonders what is wrong. At this time, a huge red paw suddenly crashes to the ground. One of them, stunned by what is happening, whispers of heavenly powers as he looks at what is happening around him. The group stands, surrounded by floating debris, trying to realize what they are facing. The elder is surprised to realize that something significant is standing before him. A giant scolopendra appears, shattering the ground around it with its massive claws. Its red eyes gleam in the darkness, giving an intimidating impression. At night, under the light of the moon, there are loud sounds of destruction, and someone notices the scolopendra rampaging about. A young man, lying in the dark, ponders the size of the creature, assuming it is so huge that it could swallow a man. He is amazed and interested in what is happening, his thoughts busy pondering the magnitude of the creature. The moonlit night illuminates the mountainous landscape, creating an atmosphere of mystery and danger. A group of people surround the defeated body of a scolopendra. They stand in a circle, examining the huge monster that now lies motionless on the ground. An old man opens a box containing a glowing crystal of the giant scolopendra. He explains that it can be used to heal Waun. There are people standing around him, listening intently to his words. The man turns to his father, suggesting that he take everyone who wasn't injured with him and head to Sichuan. He adds that there are matters that need attention, and mentions hatred and mercy. The old man agrees, admitting that he's been consumed with thoughts of Waun. He notes that the young man has been a great help, and asks to hear his wish. The leader offers to take care of the wounded warriors in the village, while he himself stays with the young man. Meanwhile, the young man, surrounded by the small creatures, ponders what to do next. He assumes that he will be interested to hear about what has happened. At the same time, the young man was not alone, but in the company of small insects, not realizing what he should do now. Young is surprised to discover that overnight he has become a father to several small scolopendras. After his forays, he returns home and puts the eggs on his bedside table. The next morning, all the eggs had already hatched, and the cute, furry creatures were all around him. He hadn't expected them to come into the world so quickly. The little scolopendras are coiled around him, and he tries to handle them. At first he is amused, but then he realizes that these little ones consider him their mother and don't want to get away from him. The young man tries to coax them to move away a bit, but the scolopendras cling to him even tighter. He realizes that he now has a new, unexpected concern. Last night, the man, a young man as the thrill collector, went in search of a giant scolopendra that was rumored to be able to swallow a man. He was determined to quench his curiosity and traveled to a dark forest where there was a cave where he assumed the monster was hiding. Inside the cave, he encountered an unexpected foe that was the size of his fist. A battle broke out, and the man wasted no time in repelling the attack using his agility and wit. In the process of fighting, he dropped a burning torch that illuminated the space around him. After an intense battle, he fell to the ground exhausted, but with a smile on his face he noted that everything had gone perfectly. He was able to find 3 eggs that probably belonged to a scolopendra. Overjoyed at his find, he noted that if the rain had not stopped, he would never have been able to find anything. The young man, determined, decides not to give in to his emotions. He reminds himself that now is not the time to relax, and is certain that he must go back and take care of his new friends. Tying the knot tighter, he decides to head home to the temple. With a smile, he turns to the little scolopendras, promising to bathe them in warm water soon. Although he is unsuccessful in finding the giant blue-spotted scolopendra, he is glad he saved the little ones. However, he soon notices that the scolopendras are not going to budge from him, and ponders how uncomfortable this is. He realizes that they won't eat until they're watered, and there's no need to worry about food. But an idea occurs to him: if he takes a dip in the water, they might get off of him. The smile on his face suggests that he is ready for this plan. The scolopendra on his shoulder makes a surprised sound as he decides it's time for a swim. Soon, the leader finally reaches the temple where the young man lived. He takes a step forward and a light wind rises around him. Inside the building, he knocks on the door, asking if the young man is there. Receiving no answer, he repeats the question, frowning slightly. Deciding to enter, he cautiously opens the door, announcing his intention. Inside, he notices many medicinal plants and vessels, which piques his interest. He wonders if the young man is a healer, and notices something unusual on a shelf. Realizing that he entered without permission, he feels embarrassed and realizes that it was rude. The leader resolutely leaves, promising to return later. The noise of footsteps and the creaking of the door create an atmosphere of anticipation. Suddenly he stops, hearing a strange sound, and his attention is caught by something unusual. He turns around and notices a rustling sound coming from one of the vessels. Intrigued, he cautiously opens the lid, expecting to see something important. His surprise increases when a spider appears inside, staring at him intently. Shocked, he looks around, not believing his eyes. Then he opens a drawer and a brightly colored lizard pops out. This leaves him even more surprised and bewildered. The leader, with an expression of surprise, stands in a room full of drawers. He opens one of them and sees strange bugs inside. His attention is then drawn to another container containing unusual seeds or cocoons. In the next drawer, he discovers the skin of snakes. Amazed by what he sees, he cannot believe his eyes. His thoughts turn to the fact that this place might be breeding venomous creatures. He ponders the fact that even poison experts can only extract the poison, but are unable to increase the numbers of such creatures. He recalls how he had hoped to find a means to save his daughter, but instead discovered something more. Determination appears in his eyes and he clenches his fist, realizing the importance of his discovery. The young man, noticing the chapter, exclaims in surprise. He runs down the street and inquires about the wound on the chapter's arm. The leader replies that it is nothing serious and expresses a desire to talk. Suddenly, however, a strange sound catches their attention. The leader turns around sharply, warily asking who is there. A bright glow appears in the background, and a sinister figure surrounded by purple flames begins to emerge from the doorway. The creature, looking menacing with a devilish grin, approaches. The head warns the young man at the last moment to step aside, protecting him from the impending danger. A tense battle unfolds in the center of events. A red hand exuding power rushes towards its target, tearing the air. He rushes at the leader with a wild scream, who tries to defend himself. Suddenly, two forces collide in the air. A fighter with a courageous face full of determination strikes, battling his opponent. A blast of energy illuminates the space and the opponent is thrown back. Despite the fury of battle, the fighter finds himself on his knees, holding his wounded side. He realizes that the opponent is equal in strength to his father, and warns the young man of the danger, urging him to flee. At this time, the opponent, grasping the young man by the neck, lifts him into the air. The man calls for help in desperation, but the adversary only laughs, enjoying his power. The angry asshole claims to have learned of the arrival of the Tang clan men on Hainan Island and found their head wounded. In response, the leader bewilderedly asks who he is and how he knows him. The enemy laughs and reminds him of his face and red fist, calling himself the Bloody Rakshasas, who was made that way by the leader's father. The adversary is recalled being hit in the head with a poison arrow and thrown off a cliff, but survived. The leader, realizing the gravity of the situation, tries to save the boy by offering himself in exchange, but the enemy refuses, saying he is going to kill everyone in his path. The boy, terrified and suffocating, ends up in the hands of the adversary. The adversary threatens his life with a devilish laugh, and the boy begs for help. The young boy exclaims, frightened by what is happening. Sinister eyes glow in the air, creating a tense atmosphere. Suddenly, the enemy is attacked by small Scolopendra cubs. Rakshasas, covered in scars, furiously tries to fight off these creatures. He is confused by their appearance and tries to figure out what these creatures are, calling them Scolopendras. Despite his certainty that they will not harm him, he suddenly begins to feel pain. The creatures continue their attack, and the enemy, cursing them, begins to weaken. Eventually, he falls to the ground, and the young man watching the scene exclaims in surprise, unable to believe that the enemy could have died so quickly. Against the backdrop of ancient architecture, the young man stands over his defeated foe, wondering if he was really a bad man. At this, the leader watches in amazement, realizing that the young man is not a freeloader at all, but a worthy man who should join their clan. A few days after Tak Un Yang's murder, the scene is still covered in cracks. A sigh of relief can be heard inside the building. A young man carefully tends to the injured man, wiping his face with a damp cloth. The wounded man thanks the young man for his help, but the young man offers to find out where his men are so he can go get them. The young man, with a concerned face, sits next to the man lying on the bed with a bandage on his forehead. The young man says he can't leave the man alone, because then he won't be able to leave to get his medicine. The man reassures him that everything will be fine and he will be fine in a few days. The young man looks at the man and remembers how he recently coughed up blood, which makes him fearful and worried. He yells that the man is in critical condition and shouldn't be so calm. The man tries to calm him down, assuring him that he is fine, but he coughs up blood again. The man smiles, though he looks tired, and says he's fine. The guy is stunned by the man's calmness and even asks how he can be like this considering his condition. The man then says that he is from Murim. The guy is surprised and exclaims, "What?" He can't believe what he's heard, as Murim is a completely different place where everyone flies swords using different techniques. The man confirms and adds that not everyone in Murim has powers, but he is right that many can fight using techniques and fly. The young man is stunned and exclaims in admiration that this is indeed another world. This is the only way to explain the existence of a huge scolopendra that was the size of a building. The man thanks the boy for his help, adding that he was very lucky to have met him. He asks the boy to introduce himself. The young boy replies that his name is Wiso Ryong, to which the man introduces himself as Tan Chul-san, the head of the Sichuan Tang clan. The man, smiling faintly, notes that the boy's name means Little Dragon, and it's a beautiful name. Tang Chul-sang turns to Wiso Ryong, noting that he has questions, and wonders if he can ask them. Wiso Ryong replies in agreement, listening intently. Tang Chul-sang asks if the small creatures on Wiso Ryong are scolopendra, to which he confirms. They're baby giant scolopendra with blue spots. Tang Chul-sang is surprised to learn that Wiso Ryong has tamed these cubs and abruptly sits down, which alarms Wiso Ryong, who asks him not to get up so quickly. Tang Chul-sang, oblivious to his condition, is even more surprised, asking how Wiso Ryong managed to do that. Wiso Ryong laughs and explains that while he was waiting for Tang Chul-sang here, he accidentally spotted another poisonous critter. Wiso Ryong is about to tell a long story, and Jang Seol agrees to listen to it. Seo Ryong starts off by saying that he once found scolopendra eggs. Chul-sang listens intently as Seo Ryong continues his story. He elaborates that he decided to take the eggs and raise the scolopendra, knowing the approximate time they would hatch. Tang Chul-sang is clearly shocked by these words, wondering how Wiso Ryong knew the hatching time. Wiso Ryong asks Tang Chul-sang to wait a bit and reaches into a drawer to pull something out. Wiso Ryong happily shows Tang Chul-sang the two small creatures he's holding. He proudly points out that they're regular lizards with yellow stripes on their bodies and white stripes on their tails. Next, Wiso Ryong shows another lizard and explains that he chose the specimens with the most stripes and crossed them, resulting in a lizard with two colors. Tang Chul-sang, stunned by the result, exclaims that it's incredible. Tang Chul-sang asks in bewilderment if Wiso Ryong really made the lizard have that color. Wiso Ryong replies enthusiastically that that was his goal, and he succeeded. Tang Chul-sang seems shocked to see Wiso Ryong doing such a successful job. Tang Chul-sang says that if Wiso Ryong can combine creatures with different poisonous properties, then maybe he can create a critter with the most powerful poison. Wiso Ryong interjects in surprise, not understanding what exactly Tang Chul-sang means. Wiso Ryong thinks for a moment and remarks that it's not impossible. Seo Ryong continues, stating that if they can determine whose poison is stronger, they might be able to achieve it. However, Seo Ryong also admits that it won't be easy, much to the surprise of Wi Chul-sang, who wasn't expecting such a twist. Tang Chul-sang decisively tells Wiso Ryong to join their clan. Wiso Ryong reacts stunned at the suggestion, not even believing his ears. Tang Chul-sang tries to convince him, promising that the clan will teach him martial arts and give him access to elixirs, herbs, and poisons, anything he wants. Wiso Ryong looks confused and slightly bewildered by this flood of offers. Tang Chul-sang adds that with Wiso Ryong's help, they'll be able to grow the 10 most poisonous creatures of the Middle China Plain. If his words don't convince him, he starts talking about the most beautiful women in the entire plain, mentioning that his daughter is also among them. Wiso Ryong can't stand it and yells for Tang Chul-sang to stop. Tang Chul-sang, with a sly smile, comments that despite his age, Wiso Ryong is still a man for reacting like that. Wiso Ryong, clearly confused, asks Tang Chul-sang to clarify what he's talking about, referring to the previous one. Wiso Ryong then clarifies if those 10 poisonous creatures are really as majestic as a giant scolopendra. Tang Chul-sang confirms with certainty and even adds that the scolopendra, though magnificent, is no match for the legendary 10. Tang Chul-sang describes a variety of creatures, from temple-sized scorpions to golden frogs, emphasizing that the existence of such critters is beyond ordinary. Wiso Ryong is surprised and his face clearly expresses it, but Tang Chul-sang, grinning, is clearly enjoying the situation. Wiso Ryong looks at Tang Chul-sang with a satisfied smile, who says that apparently the young man has accepted his invitation. Wiso Ryong looks determined and inspired. 2 days pass and we are still at the young man's temple. People are gathered on the grounds discussing the events. One of the clan members excitedly asks if they have seen the bloody Rakshas attack Wu Yang. This seems to be a serious event for everyone present. Tang Chul-sang replies that they did indeed almost get in trouble, but apparently Tak Wu Yang has been honing his martial arts all along since he was on the same level as Tang Chul-sang's father. Wiso Ryong and the rest of the clan members listen with obvious interest. The other clan members remark that since they destroyed Tak Wu Yang, they've reached the perfect level and congratulate Tang Chul-sang. Tang Chul-sang smilingly replies that it's not like that and mentions that it wasn't him who destroyed the bloody Rakshasa, but a young man, referring to Wiso Ryong. The clan members are stunned by this statement. They can't believe that a boy could do this. One of them approaches Wiso Ryong, exclaiming that he must be a reincarnated person to be able to do such a thing. Ryung, clearly confused and surprised, repeats the question, not understanding what the question is about. Tang Chul-sang suggests that Ryung show the others what he showed him earlier to avoid misunderstandings. Ryung, a little hesitant, pulls out his pets, addressing them, "Guys, get out." He opens his clothes, and small creatures emerge from inside. The other clan members, surprised by the appearance of the scorpions, wonder. Centipedes. Ryung explains that they are the babies of a giant scolopendra, and that they were the ones that killed Tak Woo-young. This brings a new flood of questions from the clan members. They're shocked that Ryung was able to tame such dangerous creatures, and whether they actually possess strong venom. Chul-sang reveals that he's offered the young man to join their clan, and Ryung is thinking about it for now. The others support the idea, assuring him that it's a good idea. Suddenly, everyone stops and looks back at Tang Chul-sang, who rises, clutching his hand and saying that it's time to get up and that it can't be allowed to get too late. Ryung turns to him in surprise, asking if he needs to look for something again. Tang Chul-sang replies with a meaningful silence, hinting that the situation is much deeper than it seems. Tang Chul-sang, with a look of determination on his face, talks about the enemy called Blood Rakshasa Tak Unyong. He explains that the enemy uses a special skill, Blood Poison Claws, which requires the blood and brains of others to increase strength. This is a truly terrifying technique. Ryung is shocked when he hears about this martial art and sees Tak Woon-yang's terrifying appearance. He loudly expresses his bewilderment, not understanding how such a thing can exist. Tang Chul-sang, with a serious expression on his face, continues to explain that such a horror cannot be allowed to spread throughout Murim. He emphasizes that if the enemy has a legacy or followers, they will have to destroy them to prevent further calamities. He also adds that if anyone has become a prisoner of Tak Unyong, they must be rescued. The young men surrounding Tang Chul-sang agree with him and express their support for his plan. Tang Chul-sang turns to Ryung, inviting him to join their clan, as he knows the area better and his help will be very important. The young man ponders, realizing that such an offer could mean that a long partnership like a lifelong attachment awaits him. In the end, Ryung agrees to help. The men around him rejoice at his decision, and Tang Chul-sang praises him wholeheartedly for this choice, emphasizing that their goal is to save people. With determination in his eyes, the young man declares that he will study the Sichuan Tang clan thoroughly. His little companions actively express support, radiating confidence. He adds that competent people always conduct a reverse interview, which makes his onlookers look at him with surprise and respect. 3 days pass after Chul-sang's chapter is reinstated. A group led by him and a young man arrive at a village near the temple to learn more about the place where the bloody Rakshasa Tak Unyong lived. The villagers, upon seeing the visitors, listen to their questions. The old man replies with a concerned expression that sometimes people do go missing, though it is rare 1 or 2 people a year are lost in the jungle. Head Chul-sang listens thoughtfully to the old man and expresses his gratitude for the information. In response, the old man says that helping the head of the famous Sichuan Tang clan is an honor. The group decides to continue their journey and reminds each other to be careful. Unfortunately, the search is unsuccessful. They find no traces, which is noticeably disappointing for all involved. The head and the young man, undaunted, move forward with the others, intent on not giving up. Their determination is expressed in their looks as they enter the jungle, ready for a new challenge. Ryung and his companions discuss the search in the village. He wonders what to do if there are no leads in the other village as well. Chul-sang ponders that their target must be somewhere nearby, considering they were spotted by a certain Yang. He admits that the search has been harder than expected. Ryung wonders why their target can't be tracked. The words that people from the Tang clan arrived on Hainan Island come to his mind. He tries to remember what Bloody Rakshasa said when he appeared, but the group leader doesn't remember the details. It's no wonder, since the head was busy herding the pile at the time. Ryung assumes that someone may have accidentally reported their arrival. They decide to go around all the places they passed and use the flyers to ask people about Yang. Ryung and his companions gather in the shade of the trees, discussing the unexpected discovery that caught them off guard. The leader, gazing pensively into the distance, recalls recent words that have now taken on new meaning. He assumes that someone already knew of their arrival, and this realization brings a certain relief as their task becomes clearer. Determined to waste no time, they agree to set off immediately. The group moves cautiously through the narrow streets of a village surrounded by tall palm trees whose leaves rustle in the wind. They discuss that this may be the same village they have been told about, where the inhabitants are suffering from an unknown disease. Despite the disturbing rumors, the young man notices that the locals don't seem to be hostile to outsiders, which reassures them a little. There is a deceptive calm in the village. At first glance, life seems to be going on as usual, but there is tension in the air, as if the villagers are expecting something bad to happen. A group of travelers arrive in the village and greet the locals. One of them, sitting on the porch, watches the newcomers carefully. Soon, one of the village representatives asks about the purpose of the visit to the village. The leader introduces himself as Tan Kol Sang, the head of the Tan clan, and begins to explain the reason for their appearance. Meanwhile, a young man notices that there is a lack of life in the village, and even the children look exhausted. He is stunned by this discovery and inwardly wonders about the state of the locals, noting that they seem strangely apathetic. The village elder, talking to the young man, assures him that everything is calm and no one has gone missing. Despite these words, however, the atmosphere in the village remains tense and the villagers continue to seem aloof. The village elder sternly orders the travelers to leave. He looks determined and adamant. Chul Sang notices that there are fewer residents than houses in the village and tries to find out the reason. However, the elder replies sharply that it's none of their business and insists that they leave the village. The young man, a little embarrassed, recalls saying that he was told that the locals were not hostile to outsiders. Cheol San reacts to the situation with bewilderment, emphasizing that this is clearly not the case. Suddenly, a little girl named Meijin faints. The elder, worried, runs up to her and exclaims that she's the only one he has left. He's clearly desperate and worried about her health, not understanding how she could have gotten infected. As such, Chul Sang offers his help and asks permission to examine the girl. He explains that he is not a healer, but has some skills. The elder agrees, asking him to do what he can to save the child. Actually, some time ago, a strange plague began spreading in our village. The children have gradually started to die, and the adults are also falling ill and weakening. I see. Let me take a look. Thank you so much. Please come inside. What are you waiting for? Bring the healer and the group inside. You know medicine as well. Elder, Seo Ryong asked. Yes, our Duong family's martial arts involve handling toxins, so we're also skilled in pharmacology. Furthermore, our martial arts are rooted in understanding the body, which requires some medical knowledge. Seo Ryong thought, I assumed they were simply a group of assassins skilled in poison. If I joined the Duong sect in Sichuan, not only would I learn deadly martial arts, but gaining medical knowledge wouldn't be bad either. Someone beside them added, of course, sometimes we capture wrongdoers and inject poison into them to observe the effects. Seo Ryong thought, human experimentation, that's a bit. These people are indeed quite frightening. A little while later, in another room, the elder began transferring inner energy to stabilize the child's breathing. Thank you, sir. The elder of the village said, this is my only granddaughter. Please save her. Incidentally, her pulse is unstable, very strange. Was her heart weak from birth? No, her condition only started worsening. About half a year ago, not just my granddaughter, but many others have also started falling ill and weakening. We call it the strange illness. That's why I asked you to leave from the village entrance earlier. The elderly man explains that leprosy has spread in the village and he did not want the disease to spread to their guests, so he asked them to leave. The older man understands his concern and offers to gather all the villagers to test a remedy for the disease. The elderly man cries gratefully, expressing his gratitude, and the older man responds with kindness. Later that night, under the light of the moon, the men discuss the work they have done and the symptoms of the disease. One of them remarks that each patient shows different symptoms, but those who have gotten worse have had fever, intermittent breathing, and inflammation. Chul Sang asked about the boy, wondering about his absence. He was told that he had been helping as best he could, but had grown tired, so he had been sent to rest. Chul Sang noted that for an untrained body that had not studied martial arts, such exertion might be too much. At that moment, the boy, barely keeping himself on his feet, tried to convince them that he was fine, even though his tired appearance said otherwise. Chul Sang smiles and decides to check on the boy, going to see him, and one of the companions decides to accompany him. When the door to the boy's room is ajar, the light sound of footsteps can be heard on the floor. The boy is sound asleep on the bed when a man enters the room with a wary but determined expression on his face. His footsteps sound confident, and as he stops at the bedside, he raises his hand sharply, preparing to do something. The harsh light from his palm is directed towards the boy and he wakes up, dazed and frightened. The man looks at him, full of determination, but the boy is shocked out of his wits trying to realize what is happening, shrieking in fright and painful shock. Waking up from his sudden awakening, the boy stares at the man in amazement, not understanding his intentions. Chul Sang stands before him, serious and wary, and the young man says demurely, "Leader." He doesn't understand why he was hit. The young man dazedly touches his cheek, stunned by the blow. His face expresses pain and confusion, and his eyes are moistened with tears. He can't hold back and exclaims indignantly, accusingly, "You!" Seo Ryong questions why he was hit so hard, complaining that it hurt so much. The man lying next to him apologizes, claiming that he just wanted to catch an insect that was supposedly crawling on his face. The young man looks at him in disbelief, clarifying, "What? An insect?" Chul Sang excuses himself and says that he wanted to check on him before going to bed, and after noticing a bug on his face, he decided to catch it. He points out that there are a lot of poisonous insects in the area, and he thought it was dangerous to leave it on the young man. Chul Sang assures him that his hand involuntarily went up. Then he nervously opens his palm and, showing it, says, "Look, it was a huge insect." Seo Ryung stares with surprise and incomprehension, trying to comprehend the explanation. The guy, looking at the bug in surprise, says, Why is it here?" He strains to recall the patient's symptoms and concludes that all had heart arrhythmia despite having different medical conditions. This leads him to speculate that the bug is the cause of the illness. It is shown that the insect belongs to the family Reduviidae and is named kissing bug because it feeds on blood from the lip or eye area. This insect acts so stealthily that its bite is less noticeable than a mosquito bite. Because of these abilities, they have been nicknamed killer bedbugs or vampire bugs. Although bedbugs themselves are not poisonous, their stomachs are filled with harmful parasites. If a bedbug bites a person, they can easily become infected through the insect's feces, which explains the outbreak in the village. Seo Ryong explains that bites from insects called kissing bugs cause Chagas disease, which is known as trypanosomiasis. He adds that these insects are one of the most dangerous creatures that have killed many people. Seo Ryong asks the elder if the village's dogs are experiencing breathing problems or exhibiting similar symptoms as humans. The elder confirms that the dogs also have similar symptoms, prompting them to link these problems to bedbugs. The elder then asks in desperation if this means they can save his granddaughter. Seo Ryong replies that it's possible if they can find the right medicine. At this point, a satisfied smile appears on the man's face and he lets out a satisfied chuckle. Chul Sang turns to his assistant and asks his opinion. The man confidently replies that he sees the young warrior's worth. At this time, the young man himself, sitting nearby, watches their strange behavior in amazement, not understanding what is going on. The man then announces that they belong to the Tang family of Sichuan. Seo Ryung interjects in bewilderment. "So what?" Tang Chul Sang begins to explain about creatures called gu, parasites that some people think are poisonous and others think are witchcraft. The man goes on to explain that gu parasites are insects bred by evil people in China. He says that these creatures are used to hurt or subjugate people, forcing them to do what their owners want. Control people? That's terrifying, Seo Ryong said. As powerful as they are, many people in the martial world have died because of this horrible thing. Some have even killed their own children, committed suicide, or betrayed their families, becoming slaves to these wicked people. Hearing this, the elder behind them cried out in fear. "Oh heavens, this is horrible." That's why, for a long time, people in the martial world have worked to create an antidote for this Jiu poison. A medicine that forces the parasites out of the body or dissolves them completely. If the martial world has made such an antidote, where would they have created it? Of course, in the Duong family of Sichuan, if there's a medicine that can dissolve a lump the size of a fist inside the body, then these tiny parasites are no problem. It's called the Qinggu dissolving pill. Just a small dose of this medicine is enough. Seo Ryong thought that's an impressive name for an anti-parasite medicine. "So don't worry, elder, your granddaughter can be saved." The narrator continued, starting with the village chief's granddaughter. The villagers gradually regained their health. "Oh, thank goodness, we're so lucky." The warm welcome from the villagers was an additional reward. Seeing their bright faces, it seemed that the reputation of the women's friendly nature was true. If the young master hadn't discovered the cause, it would have been difficult to help them. "The real benefactor isn't me," Cheat Sun said. "It's this young master here." "Thank you, young master. Thank you so much, young master. You are the hero of our village," Seo Ryong thought. Although the villagers were treated with medicine from the Duong family, Chiat-san has given all the credit to me. Seeing everyone's gratitude directed at me, he looks as happy as if it were his own success. It's really touching. Sometime after that, Chiat-san asked the elder, "You mentioned something at the village entrance earlier. What was that about?" "We've been searching for the village, where people have gone missing." "Ah, that's true. But why ask?" Chiat-san replied, "I wanted to repay the kindness. So I looked into it a bit and heard a strange story. In our village, there's a girl who was married from another village. Her parents' village experienced something strange. A few years ago, people there started disappearing one by one. Cheat-san thought this might be a clue. Where is this place? To the west, there's a small village. Seo Ryong's group headed to another area. When they arrived, they found a gruesome scene. "It looks like the place." "Master, what is this?" A chill ran down their spines. "There's a deadly toxin present as well. explaining deadly toxin refers to the toxic gases that are released as bodies decompose. A chill ran down his spine. Don't let the young master see this scene. I've already seen it, Seo Ryong replied, looking in the direction where something had caught his eye. Suddenly, a foot moved slightly, and it swallowed the head of a snake, devouring it whole. A bird? No, we can't let the dead be further desecrated. Hey, get out of here, he shouted. Thrown a rock. The bird turned angrily toward the group, and Seo Ryong yelled, "Stop that thing, something's not right." The bird flapped its wings and took off, leaving Seo Ryong speechless. No way, it's melting. Everyone move away, that's a gen bird. The scene shifted to a different location when it spread its wings. They could stretch 5 meters wide with a bright copper-colored spear, sharp beak and feathers of dark purple. When enraged, it spread its wings, turning everything around it to darkness, leaving a toxic residue with a golden crown upon its head and aura befitting an emperor. People call this creature the Gen Emperor bird. Could it be one of the 10 deadly venoms? Chi-Et-Sun replied, yes, it is the king among the 10 deadly venoms, hailed as the ruler of all creatures. The Gen bird, the emperor of the 10 deadly venoms. Seo Ryong thought, this is terrifying, unbelievably powerful. Venomous species and venomous snakes on Earth are like harmless pets in comparison. Here, it's like a flying biological weapon, Cheat-san continued. It seems it was lured here by the snakes carrying deathly toxins. It's said that the Gen bird only consumes the heads of the most venomous snakes. Could this be an omen? Yes. Indeed, it's incredibly rare to witness a Jin bird in one's lifetime. So rare, it's said to be seen once in a century, if ever. Well, what, young master? Don't tell me you want to capture it? You're thinking of capturing it, young master? Haha, yes, but with its potent venom. The elder laughed. You seem very interested in the 10 deadly venoms. If that's the case, there is a way. Yes, a way, really? Seo Ryong asked, intrigued. If you master the Duan family's venom arts, your body can become immune to all poisons, even able to resist the Gen bird's toxins. In this world, only the Duong sect's martial arts can block such a venom. But Cheat-san hesitated. Our Duong sect's secret techniques are not taught to outsiders. Even if I wanted to help you as the head of the family, I cannot break the clan's rules. If I were to become a member of the Duong family, could I learn it? And if I reached the level of full immunity, could I truly resist the Gen bird's venom? Of course, if you make a firm decision now, I won't hesitate to teach you everything. Naturally, your formal induction will be taken care of properly. But if you remain uncertain for too long, I'll have to reconsider, right? Damn it, I agreed to join the Duong family. I humbly request your guidance. Elder? No. Family head. Really? Haha. Excellent. From this day forward, you are forever a member of the Duong family. At the hideout of the blood-handed demon, Thak Van Duong, one of Cheat-sun's companions spoke up. It's deep within the cave. These blood-written inscriptions. They are indeed the secrets of the blood-handed venom master. Written in blood? Let's head back. Are we going to Sichuan now? Yes, we've obtained the inner core of the blue-spotted centipede and the secret manual. Can we stop by the temple briefly? I'd like to release some of my friends. All right, I'll also prepare your traveling gear. As they started to walk away, Seo Ryong suddenly stopped, pointing towards a glowing object and saying, there's something over there. What is this? Chi-Et-Sun picked it up, recognizing it as a feather from the Gen bird. Consider this a gift to celebrate your joining the Duong family. It seems you're quite fascinated by it. Thank you, Elder. No, family head. Everything is going well, but I'd prefer if you'd call me something else. Let's wait until the initiation ceremony, and then I'll adjust the titles accordingly. Seo Ryong thought, a ceremony? Is it like an initiation ritual? At the same time, back at the Duan family in Sichuan, a messenger reported, Grandmaster, the Supreme Family Head, Duan Votan, who departed earlier, has finally arrived. Hurry, how is Nananai? She's still holding on to life. Quick, take me to Nananai, father and daughter-in-law. I have brought the medicine. This is the inner core of the blue-spotted centipede. You succeeded, Grandmaster. He took out the core. Looking at the girl lying weakly on the ground. Nonene akai. It was almost a disaster. Thankfully, I made it in time. Father, give her the medicine quickly. He placed the core into the girl's mouth, and a green light reflected outward. With his hand, he felt her pulse. He thought to himself, please wake up. Meanwhile, Seo Ryong was thinking, I'd heard the Central Plains were vast, but I never imagined they would be this immense. After traveling from Hainan to Hangzhou by boat and passing through Nanning, they completed a month-and-a-half journey, finally arriving in Sichuan. This is the Duong family in Sichuan. Young master, the entire mountain belongs to the Duong family, so it's called Duong Family Mountain. At that moment, a large group of people rushed out from within, cheering joyfully, startling Seo Ryong. He thought, all of these people, they're all from the Duong family in Sichuan. There are so many. Amid the crowd, a young woman dressed in red hurriedly ran forward, calling out from a distance, "Father, Nan and I, you're well again? Father, I'm so sorry. Nan and I, how's your body holding up?" Seo Ryong thought, my God, is this beauty real? In my previous life, I even collaborated with celebrities. But this is the first time I've seen someone radiate such an aura. I have someone I want to introduce to you. Seo Ryong, Cheat's son said, "This is my daughter, Duong Nan Ni." Oh, right, you mentioned something about the smell of grass or something. Nani thought to herself, grass, wild grass, right? Yes, this is the wild grass, she replied with a smirk. Seo Ryong looked at her, memories flashing through his mind, remembering how Cheat's son once said, "My daughter is one of the 3 treasures of the Central Plains." No, not this wild grass. The narrator continued, poison flower. Duong Nan Nhi, the only woman in the Duong family of Sichuan. Since childhood, she carried burdens that few could understand while her talents weren't immediately clear. Her beauty was so exceptional that she was hailed as one of the 3 beauties of the martial world. People suggested that she marry an appropriate suitor and even bring in concubines to expand the family. But the family had opposed this non-Nhi thought. My mother and father weren't wrong. The narrator continued, Duong Nan Ni was determined to prove her abilities to the elders of the family by mastering her family's martial arts. Although she wasn't a man, she wanted to contribute greatly to the family. But impatience only led her astray, forming inner demons that hindered her progress. Flashback to an earlier time. You survived. Her mother said, tearfully, "What should I do? Mother, I'm sorry." Non-Nhi thought, it's over. I once wanted to be useful to the family, but now I've lost all my inner strength. A voice told her, do you feel guilty for causing hardship to your father and grandfather? You've reached the level of immunity to all poisons, the very thing you always wished for. Stop crying and rejoice. Immunity to all poisons? She raised her hand, summoning her inner energy, and said, this is me now, Nananai. She thought, not only did he save my life, but he also helped me achieve a higher level of inner power, surpassing immunity to all poisons. Returning to the present, wild grass, Seo Ryong thought, facing her and recalling his previous thoughts, realizing his mistake of calling the esteemed young lady of a noble family, wild grass. He quickly composed himself and said, ahaha, family head, you have a great sense of humor. It's an honor to meet you, young lady. I am Wei Seo Ryong. I heard you were ill before, but seeing you well now is truly a blessing. Yes, it's a pleasure to meet you. I am Poison Flower Duong Nan Ni. Thank you for saving my life. A debt I will never forget. Seo Ryong thought, she's truly beautiful. Beside him, Cheat's son leaned over and whispered, well, what do you think? Seo Ryong was startled, hearing a voice in his head. Is this transmitting thoughts? Cheat's son continued speaking in Seo Ryong's mind. Even wild grass can be beautiful, don't you think? The red spider lily, you want to pick it, don't you? The scene changed and Seo Ryong thought to himself, oh no, I'm in trouble. Usually, she doesn't cling to me all day like this. Hot water isn't good for the body. Seo Ryong advised, do you want to dip into the tub for a bit? Just as he finished speaking, it jumped right in, as if it understood him. How strange, it seems to understand part of what we're saying. According to Elder Chiat's son, it appears to react to killing intent. Staring intently at a bare body could make anyone embarrassed. Haha, these little creatures are something else. He laughed. Old Nine Failures once said that the centipedes were spiritual creatures. I'll have to ask later what a spiritual creature really means. She had sons. Words kept echoing in my head, making it hard to stay calm. The red spider lily is truly beautiful. He had said, would you like to try plucking one? I'd better get out of here quickly. The next morning, we'll arrange for the young master to stay in the East Wing Room. Explanation of the East Wing Room in traditional Chinese architecture, especially in Saheyuan-style homes. The East Wing Room is a prestigious guest room. Having a guest stay there signifies great honor. A young master this talented? Indeed, we thought we were fortunate. But it turns out the fortune wasn't thanks to his help. The fortune itself is the young master. His knowledge of poisonous creatures is extraordinary, and he even managed to defeat Thak Van Duong. Not to mention encountering a legendary creature like the Gen bird. I heard he even hatched the blue-spotted centipede egg himself. Haha, who knew I'd overlook such a treasure? Indeed, father, Nan Ni replied. I think we should consider him as a prospective son-in-law. What do you think, daughter? You mean you want him to be your son-in-law? Yes, as my son-in-law. At this, all eyes turned to Nan Ni. Awaiting her response, she thought, I have surpassed immunity to all poisons and reached the celestial poison level. I want to prove I can contribute even more to the family. Nan and I replied, Father, I am part of the Duong family, and I understand what you mean by this, but whether this young master is truly worthy, I need to verify that myself." With that, she left the others behind, quietly exiting the room. The elder thought, "Be careful, young master. The red spider lily may be beautiful, but it has sharp thorns." Nanai thought to herself, "I now aim to cultivate the celestial poison body. If I stop here, the elders of the family won't fully recognize me. I must thoroughly examine his character and values. What do I do?" Seo Ryong thought, "It seems I've left a bad impression on the young lady of this great family. Father, how should I handle this?" Running up, Nanni called out, "Young master." "Ah, Miss Nanni." Seo Ryong replied, "Please excuse my delay. I was in a hurry. May I borrow your hand for a moment?" Yes, miss, but I don't know what's so urgent. But perhaps we should save these matters for when we're a bit closer." "Isn't that right?" he said with a slight hesitation. "These things, there should be some formalities." "No? What do you mean?" Nanhi stammered, suddenly realizing, No, it's not what you think. What are you even saying?" Xiaolong thought, "Wait, that's not it at all, is it?" The girl stands in front of the seated guy, silence hanging between them. She sighs, slightly nervous. Then, smiling slightly, she explains that she came to sort things out and admits that her request for help may have been misunderstood. Seo Ryung looks dumbfounded, but quickly laughs, realizing that there's been a misunderstanding. The girl then apologizes for her sudden appearance, admitting that it was rather rude. The guy seems to relax a little, listening to her sincere words. Waun says that Seo Ryung looks young but has a bright head, and starts to talk about the situation. The guy listens intently as she shares her story, which he says resembles a historical drama. Waun reveals that her Tang clan is under constant pressure from other clans, so the clan head decided to marry her off to him. Seo Ryong realizes that the head has already thought of everything and determined his place in the story. The girl apologizes for needing to make sure her father's decision was right. She adds that if things don't work out between them, he won't be alone, and offers to be brother and sister. The girl, surprised and concerned, looks at the guy's outstretched hand. Seo Ryung says he understands her words and offers to check his actions. Waun stares at him silently, not knowing what to say. The girl places 2 fingers on his wrist, preparing for the next step. They sit together and her eyes are closed. She begins the process, surrounded by magical energy. Waun says that not everyone can master the Tang clan's martial arts, as it requires absorbing poison into one's body, and many can die in the process. She explains that the higher the level of poison and mastery of internal energy, the greater the chances of successfully mastering strong poisons. Waun finishes but still holds the guy's hand. She says that to do this, he needs to properly take the poison into his body and that fortunately his body is adapted to it. However, his body can only absorb poison to the level of 10 different species, and she explains that this is a limitation at the moment. Seo Ryong is a little surprised that his current level of development is already pretty good considering he only recently joined the clan. Waun explains that this level is the highest a normal person like him can reach. The girl says it's time for her to leave, to which the guy responds with reluctant agreement. Waun turns around decisively, and Seo Ryung looks slightly confused as he escorts her away with a glance. The guy realizes he's reached the 10 poisons level and is a little worried about it. He realizes that now he won't be able to catch the poisonous creeper, which is extremely important to him. The girl, while in the bath, sighs, pondering something. She notices that her body smells strange after consuming a giant Scolopendra crystal, despite regular bathing. Waun gets dressed while concentrating on the situation. Seo Ryung is sweetly sleeping and someone apologizing for not being able to thank the guy properly. Seo Ryung screams in his sleep, suffering from a nightmare. Someone thanks him, with tears in their eyes, calling him a young man. The guy sees the girl repeating the words of gratitude, which causes him confusion. Seo Ryung wonders if this is a dream, but the girl's voice replies that it's not really a dream. The girl explains that she just took on the guise of Waun, so he wouldn't be scared, and calls herself a giant Scolopendra, the mother of those children. The guy interjects in surprise to ask if she's really a Scolopendra. The girls he sees run to him, hugging him joyfully. He ponders the fact that these little girls are the children of Scolopendra, and wonders if they are all girls. Seo Ryong wonders what they're doing in his dream. The girl says she died leaving her children behind, and her soul remained in the crystal because of an anger that did not reach the heavens. It remains in the girl's body to this day, since she swallowed her crystal. But one day she found a way to get rid of her resentment, so she ended up here. Seo Ryung looks away and the girl replies, "It's because you and my babies came to me." The guy realizes that he's the only reason she died at the hands of the Tang clan. He says regretfully that he didn't mean to do it, but still became involved in the death of the Scolopendra. Waun smiles softly as she closes her eyes, her face expressing understanding and reconciliation. She asks Seo Ryung to honor her request if he feels guilty. Seo Ryung replies readily, "Alright, I'll do anything." The girl asks Seo Ryung to take care of her babies until they grow up. Seo Ryung clarifies that Scolopendra babies have to go through 2 molts in their mother's body before growing, to which Girish replies that they're different, not like normal insects. She explains that before molting, the cubs feed off the energy from her crystal and then begin to absorb the energy of other creatures. Seo Ryung realizes that the kids need to be near Hwa-eun's crystal and worries about it. The girl admits that she cursed that Hwa-eun who absorbed her crystal to get revenge. Seo Ryung looks very surprised to learn that Hwa-eun might be giving off a horrible stench. The girl is furious and says that she put the curse on purpose so that Ta Hwa-eun can't be with a man and have offspring, which shocks Seo Ryung. The girl explains that she can lift the curse if she feeds her children with her inner energy. Moreover, it will help to win her heart. Seo Ryung responds thoughtfully to Eun-hwa's suggestion. He says emphatically that he doesn't like the idea of taking advantage of Hwa-eun's situation. The girl smiles warmly and acknowledges Seo Ryung's nobility. She asks what he's going to do and notes that Hwa-eun wants a strong man by her side. Seo Ryung realizes he can't get the crystals and legendary poisons since his poison has been absorbed by Hwa-eun, causing him confusion. He says he has a good idea, and the girl asks in surprise if it's true. Seo Ryung confidently states that you just have to trust him, and adds that the plan should work. Seo Ryung and Hwa-eun are sitting on the terrace, discussing the events of the previous day. Hwa-eun seems concerned, and she says, "That's how." Hwa-eun now realizes that she smells bad because of the Scolopendra crystal. Seo Ryung suggests a solution. Let the baby Scolopendra sit on it for a few days so that the odor disappears on its own. Hwa-eun is embarrassed and apologizes for her words. She notices that Seo Ryung has given her some very important information and wonders if he'll ask for something in return. Seo Ryung smiles and says, "Listen." He declares that he is not so terrible as to take advantage of the girl's plight. Hwa-eun molts, she seems to be a bit thoughtful. She explains that she can't accept help all the time. Hwa-eun begins to reflect on his father's words and realizes that there is something more valuable in life than achievements in martial arts. Seo Ryung tells Hwa-eun that he's been thinking about something important too, and she asks what exactly he means. He recalls that it was mentioned to him that only 10 different kinds of poison could be absorbed. Seo Ryung remembers that he can only absorb 10 kinds of poison. In that case, the guy wants to absorb the poisons of 10 legendary beasts. Hwa-eun interjects in surprise about the poisons of the legendary creatures. Hwa-eun, in thought, begins to question and ponder why Seo Ryung wants to be the best for her. Hwa-eun is embarrassed, realizing for the first time that she got a confession from a man, which makes her feel confused. Seo Ryung and Hwa-eun look at each other intently in silence. In the next moment, she tries to figure out if Seo Ryung really said what she thinks he said. Seo Ryung guffaws and says not really. Hwa-eun tells Seo Ryung that the path ahead of him will be extremely difficult, possibly taking decades or even a lifetime. Seo Ryung wonders if it's that serious. Hwa-eun is embarrassed, covers her face with her hands and can't contain her blush as she tries to hide her feelings. After gathering her thoughts, Hwa-eun clarifies that Seo Ryung is now 15 years old and has 3 years left until he comes of age. Her embarrassment only gets worse. She continues, explaining that in those 3 years, Seo Ryung needs to absorb the poison of at least one of the legendary creatures in order to pass the test. Hwa-eun clarifies that the test is necessary so he can be with her, hinting at a wedding. She's clearly nervous, and her embarrassment peaks. Hwa-eun then decisively declares that she will cheer for Seo Ryung, but her embarrassment causes her to run away, leaving the guy bewildered. Seo Ryung confusedly tries to stop her but fails, and Hwa-eun is already running away saying she has to go. Seo Ryung stops her by asking an unexpected question. What about the feeding? The guy reminds her that she needs to feed the Scolopendras before she leaves. Having no choice, Hwa-eun returns to his seat. Seo Ryung holds the little creatures in his hands and assures Hwa-eun that they don't bite. Hwa-eun is embarrassed, but relaxes. Seo Ryung talks to the creatures carefully, calling them babies, and one of them makes a kairiri sound. Seo Ryung says to the creatures, "Go to mommy and then come back to daddy," which makes the girl start to feel embarrassed. He excuses himself, nervously explaining that he just misspoke, because the creatures are still children. The elders discuss that Seo Ryung's unusualness is noticeable to their daughter Hwa-eun, and it worries them. The old man assumes something is going on between Seo Ryung and Hwa-eun, but the other thinks she rejected him. After a brief pause, the head of the family sighs and states that he doesn't want to force their relationship. A suggestion arises to have Hwa-eun train Seo Ryung so they can bond. Hwa-eun's mother offers to raise Seo Ryung's status through the Council of Elders to improve his standing in the eyes of the girl. The old man thinks that raising the guy's status can help him rise in Hwa-eun's eyes, but Hwa-eun's father thinks that because of his daughter's temper, it won't help Seo Ryung. The elder agrees with his son's argument, recognizing that he is right and pauses, reflecting. Waun stands in front of the door in the elders' room, preparing for an important conversation. She calls for her father, which surprises those present, as no one expected her to show up at such a time. Her father tells her to come in, and Waun hesitantly opens the door, showing his tension. Waun enters the room with a red face and looks around at everyone. Seeing all the elders, Waun is surprised, not expecting them to be in the gathering, and her excitement increases. She announces that she has come to talk, which draws the attention of everyone present. Embarrassed, she starts to talk about Seo Ryung, but she finds it hard to finish her thought because of her shyness. With great effort, she blurts out that she will do as her father commanded, showing determination. Her father is stunned at her words, not expecting such an emotional reaction. The father asks Waun what Waun is talking about. The mother thinks that her daughter has fallen in love with a guy. Waun is silent, her face growing redder and redder with embarrassment. She doesn't know what to answer. Mother reacts happily to her condition, suggesting that Seo Ryung might have taken a liking to her. Waun tries to explain that she isn't, but she looks even more confused and embarrassed. Waun continues by saying that Seo Ryung is committed to becoming a better person for her sake, and has promised her personally. Her father takes a keen interest in what she says and asks for more details about the situation. Waun explains that Seo Ryung is now at the level of 10 poisons and wants to absorb the poisons of the 10 legendary creatures. The elders begin to laugh, admiring Seo Ryung's ambition and determination. Waun confesses that she promised Seo Ryung that their marriage would happen if he passed the test before adulthood. Mother listens to her with a smile, approving of her words and noting how stubborn the young man is in his intentions. Waun asks the elders if they understand why she gave such conditions to Seo Ryung. The father laughs, suggesting that he should have negotiated the 3 creatures' poisons since her daughter is worthy of more. Her mother realizes that Waun is still learning how to deal with men. Waun offers to change the terms, but his mother advises him to leave things as they are, assuring him that Seo Ryung's feelings should manifest through his efforts. The head of the family decides that they will treat Seo Ryung as a future son-in-law, pretending to know nothing about their arrangement. He adds that if the young man tries hard, he can become part of their family. Waun is flabbergasted but happy with this decision, her confidence growing. Under the flowering trees, Seo Ryung holds the Skalopendra girl's hands. She is surprised by his courage and sense of trust. Seo Ryung laughs happily, claiming that courage is his middle name, and continues to win her favor. Waun admits that her resentment has subsided, and she feels like her time in that seat is coming to an end. Seo Ryung understands her words with slight shock, realizing the importance of what's happening, while the children nearby watch with curiosity. The girl suggests that Seo Ryung voice his request if he has one. Seo Ryung is nervous and, after thinking about it, speaks up about his request. Seo Ryung asks if he can look at the girl's body, which shocks her. The girl agrees, confused by the fact that Seo Ryung is also a man. She is about to remove some of her clothes, realizing that people are weak before desire. Seo Ryung suddenly asks if she has to take off her clothes necessarily, and both of them look embarrassed. The kids, closing their eyes, hear that they don't have to take off their clothes, but Seo Ryung exclaims that they misunderstood. Seo Ryung explains that he wants to see the girl's true appearance, which causes her confusion. She agrees nervously. Suddenly, there is an explosion of energy on stage. A huge black millipede with burning red eyes appears. Seo Ryung is stunned when he sees that it is a millipede of gigantic size. Seo Ryung is surprised and delighted at the size of the millipede. He asks permission to touch her, which causes Skalopendra embarrassment, but she already allows it. Seo Ryung keeps asking her about her body and asks her to touch different parts. Seo Ryung asks how strong the poison is and asks how she sees her surroundings. She replies that she sees with her eyes. Seo Ryung wants to touch the millipede's fangs, but Skalopendra thinks it's dangerous. But Seo Ryung resents the girl for agreeing to his request. Still, she fulfills Seo Ryung's request, but worries about her children, wondering if they will be okay. Seo Ryung was touching Skalopendra's armor at this time, admiring its brilliance. Elsewhere, the leader, observing what's going on, turns to Seo Ryung with interest. The leader informs Seo Ryung that Waun told them everything, and now he's their son-in-law. Seo Ryung remarks that he's due to get married in 3 years, to which Waun's father agrees, adding that it's logical when he reaches adulthood. Seo Ryung's mother-in-law greets Seo Ryung with joy and is very happy. The old man says that now that Waun has chosen her soulmate, their family will have a bright future. Seo Ryung is surprised that Waun actually chose him. He thinks this marriage is more of an arranged marriage, because Waun put a condition on it. Seo Ryung ponders that he should get used to Waun. He asks everyone to take care of him, sitting at the same table with all the family members. Waun's father says it's time to start, and everyone agrees. Seo Ryung is a little puzzled by what's going on. Hwa-eun's father explains that they have to show Seo Ryung something important before he starts learning the Tang clan's martial arts. Seo Ryung wonders what exactly that will be. Hwa-eun's father and grandfather are laughing. The atmosphere looks relaxed. Hwa-eun's father talks about the Temple of 10,000 Poisons and assures Seo Ryung that he'll love it. The family walks to the temple and someone notes that they have all been waiting for this moment. The head of the family tells Seo Ryung about the tradition of the family gathering before entering the temple grounds. Seo Ryung enthusiastically replies that he is excited. Seo Ryung exclaims in wonder that the Temple of 10,000 Poisons is a place where different kinds of poisons are gathered, and he is excited at the thought of what's to come. Seo Ryung looks at Hwa-eun in surprise, not understanding why she's doing this. Hwa-eun breathes in the fresh air, and Seo Ryung inwardly exclaims, "God Almighty!" Seo Ryung admires what they say about the beauty revealed in the profile, and adds that the view in front of him is beautiful. The two older family members laugh, and Seo Ryung doesn't realize what's going on and reacts with surprise. Father notices that Seo Ryung's gaze seems to be burning a hole in Hwa-eun's face, and teases him for his confusion, saying that he's in love with her. Seo Ryan is reminded to look in front of him. He embarrassingly agrees. A while later, the group arrives at a large building on the temple grounds, and they are met by several guards ahead of them. Two sturdy guards are visible, watching closely. One of the guards standing in front greets the elder. The elder informs him that he has come to show his son-in-law the Temple of 10,000 Poisons. Seo Ryung is surprised at the tight security. The guard orders the gate to be opened, and the guards begin to open it. Two guards open the heavy gate with effort. One of the guards says they're opening faster than usual today, much to Seo Ryung's surprise. The guard invites them inside. The leader says to Seo Ryung with a smile, "Let's go." He explains that this gate is made of a rare metal, and it is a great honor to open it. Seo Ryung is surprised and confused. Seo Ryung and his companions have arrived at the location. The leader announces, "We are at the location." Seo Ryung is surprised to notice that this is where all of the Tang clan's poisons are stored. The elder tells him that this is the Hall of 10,000 Poisons and warns Seo Ryung not to touch anything. Seo Ryung asks if any of the poisons are curative, to which he is told that there are a huge number of poisons here, including paralyzing and enhancing poisons. The man suggests that Hwa-eun tells Seo Ryung everything he's interested in. He thinks it will help Seo Ryung sympathize with her. Hwa-eun is confused by her father's proposal, but agrees and turns to Seo Ryung, who also looks a little flustered. Hwa-eun grabs Seo Ryung's hand and asks him to follow her to show and tell her all about the poisons stored in the hall. Hwa-eun explains that this poison is the most dangerous for martial artists. Inhaling it instantly dissipates internal energy. She also says that there are different kinds of poisons: soul-destroying, blood-dissolving, and soul-torturing. Hwa-eun adds that among all these poisons, there's one that stands out for its power, and walks over to the box with it. She gives it to Seo Ryung, to which Seo Ryung is surprised. Seo Ryung examines the object in his hands and wonders, is it a bean or a berry? He notices that it looks like a tiger bean. Hwa-eun explains that it's one of the most dangerous poisons, if you don't count the poisons of the 10 legendary creatures. Seo Ryung holds the pincushion fruit that symbolizes the Tang clan. He repeats, surprised, "A pincushion?" It is explained that the poison in question is ricin, a deadly plant poison known for umbrella killing during the Cold War. Seo Ryung is horrified to realize that ricin is hundreds of thousands of times stronger than cyanide. Hwa-eun tells us that this poison is imperceptible, without color, taste, or smell. That is why it is called golden poison. Seo Ryung is shocked to learn that killing with this poison is called the golden kill. Hwa-eun tells Seo Ryung that the strongest poison isn't necessarily the most painful or destructive, but the one that kills stealthily and for sure. The goal of the Tang clan is to kill without anyone noticing, just like the members of the Golden Assassin family do. The elder suddenly interrupts the conversation, and Hwa-eun and Seo Ryung tense up as their nice conversation is interrupted. The elder suggests that Seo Ryung examine the poisonous creatures that he might like. Seo Ryung responds with interest. Seo Ryung can't believe his ears when he is told that he will be provided with everything he needs to care for the poisonous creatures. He realizes that he is being offered a job that is related to his hobby and is greatly surprised by it. Hwa-eun and the others prepare to continue the tour when Gu Pei informs the head elder that he needs to come with him. Gu Pei anxiously talks about the problem. The elder is surprised and asks questions. Gu Pei says that the clan elders need to go to the palace of the patron spirit of the north. Seo Ryung and the others are puzzled and question the reasons for this decision. The head elder is surprised and asks why the clan elders have no peace. Seo Ryung realizes that it's the elders that Hwa-eun was talking about earlier. Gu Pei, showing the two problems gesture, explains the situation to the elder. Gu Pei says the medicine sent to Sichuan province did not work, and they received a letter of complaint. Gu Pe continues to talk about the second problem, but his facial expression and reaction to the situation indicate excitement. Seo Ryong sighs heavily with a sad expression on his face, as if tired of what's going on. The elder was not pleased, for the rumors reached very quickly. The elders tell Seo Ryong to follow them, and the boy nervously agrees. The group heads to the palace of the patron spirit of the north. Another old man loudly calls out to the head, creating a tense atmosphere. He is outraged that an important decision was made without discussion, and is surprised that Wa-un wants to marry a homeless orphan. There is a look of bewilderment on the leader's face. A homeless orphan? The leader, protecting Seo Ryong, urges everyone not to insult his son-in-law and shows his strength surrounded by a green aura. The elder claims that he was the one who made the decision for Wa-un to marry Seo Ryong and wonders if anyone has any objections. But the elders were still against some ragamuffin marrying a flower like Wa-un. The elder replied that he had already blessed them. Wa-un apologizes to Seo Ryong, feeling awkward. He, on the other hand, sighs, accepting the situation. Seo Ryong realizes that he made her worry about him and blames himself for it. Soon, Seo Ryong intervenes in the conversation, and the others look on with incomprehension. Seo Ryong explains that there was a misunderstanding because of his abilities, and Wa-un looks worried. Seo Ryong offers to demonstrate his skills to prove himself worthy of Wa-un, and causes the people around him to be surprised. Seo Ryong promises to solve the provincial chief's problem and help him get rid of his pain. Wa-un is concerned, asking what Seo Ryong is up to, and is amazed at his determination. Seo Ryong realizes that his cozy life among the venomous creatures is at stake, and decides to take action. Seo Ryong is adamant that he won't let anyone ruin his life. He stands before the elders, clearly ready for further action, showing his determination. The elders are angry, their faces contorted with anger. They yell at Seo Ryong, "How dare you!" One of the elders declares that the young upstart has no right to interrupt the elders' conversation, adding that Seo Ryong doesn't even know the contents of the letter from the head of Sichuan province. Wa-un and her mother observe the situation, commenting that Seo Ryong is being extremely impertinent. Wa-un thinks about the fact that they were proposing a candidate from a respected clan for marriage, not someone like Seo Ryong. Seo Ryong thinks with a disgruntled face that the elders are becoming more and more ridiculous in their speeches. Seo Ryan recalls his popularity online, with over 1 million subscribers and many viewers on his streamers, which he used to fight trolls. Seo Ryong tells the elders that as far as he knows, they still refuse to recognize him as the son-in-law of the Tang clan, so he considers himself just a guest. Seo Ryong recalls that there were many trolls among his subscribers who created chaos for no reason. Seo Ryong reminds the elders that he saved the Tang clan's daughter and defeated a powerful enemy, as well as saving the patriarch's life. He wryly wonders if it is part of Tang clan tradition to insult their guests and benefactors to their faces, and adds that the hostility of the elders is nothing compared to what he faced as a streamer. The elders try to justify themselves, stammering and admitting that they spoke hastily and in desperation. Seo Ryong looks at the old men with contempt, thinking their attempts to humiliate him are pathetic. The elder is surprised at his insolence at this point. Another old man mentions that it would be difficult to defeat Tak Eun-yang, and doubts the veracity of Seo Ryong's words. The leader confirms that there are no lies in Seo Ryong's words and hands over a document. The old man is astonished. The elders read the book and discover that it is a secret guide to the poisonous arts, written in blood. They recognize its authenticity. The leader asks Seo Ryong to show them the spotted millipedes, and he agrees, calling the elder father-in-law. Seo Ryong shows the millipedes to the elders, who are surprised and eager to explain. Seo Ryong pulls out yellow spotted millipedes, causing the elders to be shocked and surprised. The man explains that these millipedes are descendants of the blue-spotted millipede that Seo Ryong breeds. He also mentions that they killed Tak Eun-yang. The old man is shocked that the young warrior was able to control the blue-spotted millipede. The man ironically says that since Seo Ryong isn't recognized as a son-in-law, he should be called a young warrior. Seo Ryong jokes that the elders better not get angry or they might end up like Tak Eun-yang. The elders stare in amazement at what is happening, looking visibly confused and worried. One of the elders makes the excuse that they didn't intend to not recognize Seo Ryong. It's just that the process requires certain rules to be followed. The chief elder decides to hold off on the son-in-law issue for now, but raises the issue of admission to the Hall of 10,000 Poisons. The elders argue that Seo Ryong is not yet a full-fledged part of the family, and his age does not allow him to be entrusted with such a responsibility. The chief elder agrees that access to the hall is a serious matter, but says the solution is simple. The elder asks Seo Ryong to demonstrate his abilities, to which he readily agrees. Seo Ryong declares that he will prove his worth to the Tang clan by using their same methods. The words "using poison" cause shock to the elders who fear the possible repercussions. One of the elders panics, asking if Seo Ryung is planning to poison the provincial lord. However, the other elder reassures him that it's just a treatment. Seo Ryung looks slightly confused and clarifies if he got it right, noting that nothing in the Tang clan is going straight as expected. The next day, Seo Ryung and elder meet outside, preparing for further training. The elder informs Seo Ryung that he will begin learning the Tang clan's technique called 5 returning poisons. Seo Ryung is excited. Seo Ryung wonders if the training will include physical training. The elder explains that while learning martial arts, the body naturally adapts to the techniques. The elder says that the Tang clan prioritizes practicality, so the skills learned will be applied to real-life situations. The elder shows various hidden weapons, including shurikens and knives. Seo Ryan explains that they will start with throwing concealed weapons, coins, darts, powder, and daggers and knives. The elder asks Seo Ryung what weapon he thinks is easiest to use. Seo Ryung assumes it's a dagger or a throwing knife. The elder confirms that Seo Ryung is right and asks what the most difficult weapon to use is. Seo Ryung assumes it's powder. Elder explains that the most difficult to use is the needle, as it is difficult to throw due to its size and weight. The elder adds that one should always remember the exact spot where the needle was thrown, and offers to show Seo Ryung how to do it in practice. Seo Ryung was surprised to see the brush in the elder's hand. Elder confidently begins to do something with his brush. Seo Ryung exclaims, watching the scene as the elder raises his hand, creating a rain of needles effect. The needles envelop the entire yard, leaving a spectacular impression. Seo Ryung looks stunned, the elder watching his reaction. Seo Ryung realizes in surprise that the brush works like needles. An elder demonstrates the technique as needles are lowered around a table of drawings. The elder explains to Seo Ryung that the technique is called flower rain hiding the sky. Seo Ryung realizes that he will have to use this technique in battle, and notices that there will be almost no space left. The elder tells Seo Ryung to memorize the needle positions, so he doesn't fall victim to his own technique, to which Seo Ryung responds with surprise. Seo Ryung asks in confusion if he needs to memorize all the needles that the opponent reflected or that fell in the wrong places. The elder confirms that he does. The elder says that you have to memorize at least 100 positions first. Seo Ryung looks shocked to learn that the 10 poison body allows you to memorize about 1,000. Seo Ryung lies on the floor, clearly tired and exhausted. The girl in white, Lady Hwa-eun, approaches Seo Ryung, asking if she has prepared properly. Seo Ryung sees her in an unusual costume and is surprised. She explains that she heard he was going to catch a hornet and prepared herself for it. Seo Ryung quickly reassures her, saying that with this kind of preparation, they can catch the hornet themselves. Hwa-eun wonders if he had planned to wait for the hornet to show up. Seo Ryung says that everything will be clear when they get there. Hwa-eun agrees, though she looks puzzled. Seo Ryung and Hwa-eun walk together as they discuss the hornet's nest. Hwa-eun says she found a nest nearby and they can go there. Hwa-eun starts talking about the letter sent to the Lord of Sichuan City and asks if Seo Ryung has seen it. He confirms that he did. Hwa-eun continues, saying that she was worried that because of his youth, he might not have understood the contents of the letter completely, to which Seo Ryung reacts with surprise. Seo Ryung explains the importance of yang energy in men, but Hwa-eun is embarrassed and asks to stop discussing it. Seo Ryung notices that Hwa-eun is already aware of the topic. At this point, it is revealed that the main problem troubling the Lord of Sichuan City is impotence. Hwa-eun teases Seo Ryung by saying that he knows too much for his age, which looks suspicious. Seo Ryung is embarrassed and offers to hurry on his way, trying to avoid further conversation. They walk through the woods, the two of them silent and focused until they reach a place. Suddenly, Seo Ryung notices a small lizard and enthusiastically rushes towards it. Hwa-eun looks at him in surprise. They finally arrive at their destination, and Hwa-eun tells Seo Ryung that they've arrived. They stand in front of a cave, and Hwa-eun confirms that this is the place. Hwa-eun asks Seo Ryung why it says a hive without bees, and he starts to explain. Seo Ryung explains that even though they were looking for hornets, they're not going to capture them. Hwa-eun is surprised and doesn't understand what Seo Ryung is getting at. Seo Ryung and Hwa-eun approach the cave behind which their target is hiding. Seo Ryung explains that the poisonous insect they are looking for can be found in weaker and smaller hives. Hwa-eun asks about the poisonous insect that lives in the hive, to which Seo Ryung confirms her guess. Seo Ryung happily notes that this hive has what they're looking for. Seo Ryung catches something with a joyful shout. Hwa-eun watches in surprise. Hwa-eun guesses what the insect is, and Seo Ryung confirms that it's the one they came for. Seo Ryung holds up a small insect and says that it's the one that will solve the problems of the Lord of Sichuan City.
Hwen asked about the bug, wondering if it was a ground beetle. She guessed correctly. Soryang realized that in this world, the insect was indeed called a ground beetle. In the Central Plains, the bug found in the giant hornet's nest was known as a ground beetle, though in the modern world, it's referred to as a blister beetle. Huin asked if it was normal for ground beetles to be found in a hornet nest. Soryang explained that their life cycle was quite unique. Blister beetles have an unusual method of reproduction. Unlike most insects that either guard their eggs or create a safe space for them to hatch, this little creature simply lays its eggs wherever it pleases. Soryang joked about how the blister beetle would tell its boss to hold on while it dropped some eggs before leaving, with no particular care about the location. It would just lay them anywhere with the only consideration being to pile them in one spot. When the blister beetle larvae hatch, they start crawling toward the highest point nearby. Once they reach the top, they engage in an odd behavior. They cluster together and mimic a flower. This false flower then attracts bees, which mistake it for the real thing. When the bees approach, the larvae swarm onto a carpenter bee's body, taking over its home in an instant. Soryang wasn't sure why the larvae favored giant hornet nests, but it seemed to be the ideal environment for their growth. Huayan felt sorry for the giant hornets, but Soryang shrugged, saying there was nothing that could be done. Huayan knew that the bug caused burns on the skin and had heard that eating too much of it could even be deadly. Soryang confirmed this, explaining that the orange liquid released by a blister beetle contains cantharidin, a toxic substance that causes burns and blisters when it touches the skin. Huayan blushed and asked if it truly had such an effect. Soryang affirmed, adding that it also had the curious property of immediately raising a man's rod. Embarrassed, Huayan quickly told him to stop explaining. She encouraged him to return to the Hall of 10,000 Poisons. Soryang, however, wanted to catch a few more beetles. They had already secured the blister beetle, and once back at the Hall of 10,000 Poisons, Soryang began teaching the warriors how to prepare the medicine. He instructed them to listen carefully and explained that they needed to dry the ground beetles and grind them into powder. 1/10 of that powder was toxic and 3 ml of it could prove fatal. If a person consumed 3/10 of a ml per guan body weight, about half of them would die. Soryang requested that they prepare the medicine using only 1/10 of 1 ml of the poison, about the amount in 10 drops of liquid. To clarify, 1 ml equals 3.75 milligrams and 1 guan equals 3.75 kilograms. He asked if they understood. Deep down, Soryang felt as if his brain might explode from the complexity. One warrior, removing his mask, remarked that Soryang's explanations were incredibly detailed. They never imagined he would be so skilled in mathematics. The warrior assured Soryang that they would make sure to succeed, no matter what. Soryang thanked them, saying he relied on their efforts. Later that evening, Musong was talking to Wei-in about how surreal it was that ground beetles had such effects. He mentioned that this made him want to reconsider the poisons in the Tang clan's arsenal. Huayan agreed. Musong then brought up Soryang's remarkable talent in math. Huayan shared how Soryang had calculated the solution's concentration and estimated it to match the weight of 10 drops of liquid. Musong admitted that while he considered himself knowledgeable about poisons, Soryang was on an entirely different level. The more he learned about him, the more he realized what a gem the young man was. Teasing Huayan, Musong asked if she liked Soryang even more now. Huayan blushed, feeling flustered. She admitted that she regretted her hasty judgment in the beginning. Musong replied that as long as she made up for it going forward, that was what mattered. Musong then asked how they planned to test the medicine once it was ready. Huayan turned bright red, almost as if she were a tomato. She mentioned that the branch family elders were saying Soryang had been too insolent. Soryang responded confidently that he'd test it by confronting the clan elders directly. Musong was left speechless, his jaw hanging open in shock. He laughed loudly, finding the boy amusing. The next day, everyone gathered in the hall. The clan elders were doubtful. A warrior handed Soryang a wooden box and explained that he had mixed licorice powder and honey to make the medicine sweeter and easier to consume. Soryang was impressed by how much attention the man had paid to the smallest details. He asked the warrior if he had followed the instructions exactly. The warrior confirmed that he had done so carefully. Other clan members scoffed, saying they were making too big a deal out of it. They even questioned how amazing it could truly be. The patriarch silenced them and then asked Soryang how he planned to prove the medicine's effectiveness. Soryang feigned surprise at the question. The clan elders shouted that it was only natural they needed confirmation. One elder yelled that they would never dare send unverified poison to the city lord of Sichuan. Another elder agreed, adding that if something went wrong it could lead to disaster. Soryang calmly responded that they had no other choice. The warrior understood, but the elders were confused. They grew irritated, feeling as though Soryang was implying they should test it themselves. A loud elder snapped at Soryang. asking if he even understood what that substance was. Another elder commented that Soryong had been out in the world for so long that it seemed like even his insides had turned black. Soryong grinned and called for his grandfather. Museong appeared asking what he needed. Soryong brought up Museong's earlier statement that those who mastered the Tang clan's martial arts were never afraid of poison. Museong agreed with Soryong's plan and confirmed the statement. Soryong pointed out that the elders' reactions seemed to imply they were afraid. Museong agreed once more. Soryong taunted the great elders of a clan that was surely skilled in mastering 100 poisons. He used reverse psychology, saying that surely they weren't afraid of something as simple as ground beetle poison. This provoked the elder, who then split the medicine into two. He claimed they had no fear of such a trivial poison and consumed it. The elder warned Soryong that if the medicine didn't work, there would be consequences. The elder declared that they would uphold the laws and principles of the clan. They chewed the medicine and a tense silence followed. Then, they smirked and declared that nothing was happening. However, one elder felt his manhood stir. The long slumber of the snake was over. Embarrassed, the elders quickly tried to hide their reactions, and from that day on, the clan's laws and principles were firmly set, with a hint of humor. The medicine was sent to the city lord of Sichuan, and its effects were proven to be excellent. A little later, the elders walked through the hall, holding their pants to hide the evidence. Soryong told Museong it had worked just as he had said. By provoking the elders with something related to poison, they had fallen for it immediately. Museong knew that the elders' actions were driven by their pride, but also by their concern for the clan. He advised Soryong not to resent them too much. Museong reminded him that in the end they were all family. Soryong nodded, understanding. Hwayan hurried in, saying something terrible had happened. They asked what it was, and she explained that their children were acting strange. Soryong turned red and was taken aback. Mu Siyong, now serious, called for his grandson-in-law and grabbed him by the collar. He demanded to know what was going on and asked why they had children. Soryong was drenched in cold sweat. Still holding on, he said they hadn't even had a wedding ceremony yet. Wayne, her face flushing, shouted that they weren't human children. It was the centipede Soryong was raising. Soryong looked surprised and worried, quickly asking what had actually happened to the centipedes. He explained that he had been doing a lot of physical training lately and had asked Miss Hwayan to look after them in the meantime. However, due to her recent efforts, she had completely forgotten about them. Suddenly concerned, he asked to see where his daughters were, but Hwayan told him they weren't with her. The old man, witnessing this scene, was left in utter shock. Sometime later, the three small centipedes were shown looking sickly. Not understanding the situation, Soryong asked Hwayan if it had happened suddenly. She confirmed, saying they had seemed fine earlier, and asked if he thought they were ill. Their colors looked pale and their shells appeared strange. Soryong quickly realized what was happening and reassured Hwayan not to worry. He explained that the process was called molting, during which creatures like centipedes shed their hard shells. He added that it was likely the time for it to happen. Hwayan, still uncertain, asked if it was truly okay, and Soryong reassured her it was natural and would happen soon. The first centipede started moving within its shell, and moments later, it broke out, revealing something unexpectedly adorable. Everyone was amazed at what they had just witnessed, and Hwan noticed the other two centipedes were also starting to crack their shells. Seconds later, they emerged as well. Now gathered together, all three appeared twice as large and even more charming, leaving everyone captivated by their beauty. Hwan asked Soryong if he had names for them yet, but he admitted he hadn't thought about it. After a brief pause, he suggested calling them number 1, number 2, and number 3. Without hesitation, Hwayan rejected the idea, saying such generic names wouldn't do. She explained that centipedes of this species could transform into dragons after living for 1,000 years and deserved names worthy of such grandeur. Soryong, skeptical, dismissed the notion that a centipede could become a dragon, even after a millennium. The old man nervously interrupted, laughing, and explained that these centipedes were known as heavenly dragons, meaning they would indeed transform. Realizing who had been spreading such nonsense, Soryong shook his head but continued thinking of suitable names. After a moment of contemplation, he proposed Nova, Myra, and Grace. Wine was taken aback. Soryong explained the symbolism behind each name. The first, Nova, represented a beginning. The second, Myra, symbolized fragrance. The third, Grace, stood for elegance or kindness. Wayne was charmed by the names and their meanings, agreeing that the father should indeed name his children. Sometime later, while strolling through the city, the now larger centipedes clung to Soryong's body again. As he sat down to rest, he noticed that although his training had strengthened him, it wasn't enough for their increased weight. But at least he could still move. Opening his mouth to comment on their added heaviness, one of the centipedes suddenly jumped and hit him square in the face. Now lying flat from the impact, he realized they were clinging to his entire body. As he mulled over the situation, he overheard a conversation nearby that caught his attention. Two men carrying a bag of money remarked on how extravagant the Tang clan of Sichuan was, planning to visit a brothel that night. They added that earning money had never been easier, sparking Soryong's curiosity. Later, the patriarch shared good news with Soryong. He asked if Soryong remembered the medicine they had sent to the elders some time ago. Soryong confirmed he did. The patriarch explained that the medicine had worked exceptionally well, mentioning that the Lord had sent a message of gratitude along with a generous reward, which delighted both Soryong and Wayne. The father-in-law praised Soryong for achieving something remarkable, admitting he hadn't expected to reap benefits so quickly from accepting him as a son-in-law. Soryong was pleased by the compliment. Finally, the patriarch suggested granting him one of his elixirs, urging him not to refuse out of modesty. Soryong pondered the benefits an elixir might bring. Excited, Wayne asked her father what type of elixir he was offering. He replied that it was the honey of the golden king bee. Soryong assumed it was just ordinary honey, but thought he should probably accept it since it might boost his internal energy and help him become a martial master. With a serious expression, Wayne called out her father, asking why he had mentioned giving a reward when in reality, it was just honey. Gripping So-ryong's arm, she sternly said her father shouldn't be so stingy, emphasizing that So-ryong's accomplishments weren't trivial. She also pointed out that the honey was a low-grade elixir. The patriarch, now looking downcast, explained that even though it was low-grade, it had been expensive to acquire. Wayne, visibly fuming, retorted that regardless of its cost, it was far too insignificant compared to what Soryong had achieved. The patriarch silently lamented how difficult it was to have a daughter. Unbothered by the argument, Soryong asked more about the golden king bee they were discussing. After a moment of thought, the father-in-law described the golden king bee as a venomous, mid-level creature found in forests. He explained that its size was comparable to that of a small dog. He added that consuming its honey provided internal energy equivalent to 2 full months of meditation. Soryong's eyes lit up, marveling at the idea of a bee as large as a dog. Meanwhile, Wayne excused herself, frustrated on Soryong's behalf. Thinking quickly, the father-in-law fabricated an excuse, saying he thought Soryong might enjoy seeing the golden king bee in person. The suggestion instantly lifted Soryong's mood, and he grew excited at the prospect of seeing the bee for himself. The father-in-law gave an approving nod, and Soryong became euphoric. He recalled how in his past life he used to harvest honey alone while filming videos for YouTube. Wasting no time, he ran off, proclaiming himself an expert on bees. The father-in-law followed, commenting that this had turned out to be a good idea. Wayne sighed deeply, realizing she would have to deal with this new situation. Thus began the journey to harvest the honey. Despite their advanced knowledge, when they arrived, they found two groups arguing over who had the right to collect the honey from that area. One group claimed they had purchased the information fairly, while the other argued that they had arrived first and had also bought the details from a man with messy hair and a large wart on his face. Soryong recalled having seen someone with those exact features before. One of the members of the Tang clan of Sichuan grew furious and shouted that those swindlers had insulted their clan. Upon hearing the name Tang clan, the entire opposing group was struck with fear. Moments earlier, the patriarch had gathered with the couple, warning Soryong to be cautious on his first journey outside. He reminded him not to forget that he was now a member of the Tang clan family. Soryong nodded, saying he understood. Huayan, already aware of the topic, remained silent, while Soryong, surprised, glanced to the side and noticed a group of Tang clan members awaiting leadership. The patriarch explained that Soryong now needed to learn how to manage others. Soryong protested that Huayan would be with him, but the patriarch called him foolish, stating that now that she was his wife, it made him the highest authority. Stunned and confused, Soryong froze when the patriarch referred to Wayne as his wife. Meanwhile, in the background, Wayne reassured him that he would do just fine. Desperate, Soryong promised to do his best. Returning to the current scene, tension filled the air as the two groups glared at each other, vying for the right to harvest the golden king bee's honey. Soryong asked Wolfgang, the leader of the Venomous blood unit, if they should share information with the other group. After a moment's thought, Wolfgang questioned who had dared to leak information about the Tang clan of Sichuan. Huayin remarked that whoever had the audacity to sell information bought by the Tang clan must be very bold. Upon seeing her, the opposing group grew visibly uneasy. Recognizing her as the poison flower of the 3 flowers of Nurim and a direct descendant of the Tang clan, they were struck with fear. Realizing their mistake, the leader of the other group apologized, introducing his faction as the Central Wind Sect and announcing their withdrawal. He insisted they had no intention of interfering in Tang clan affairs. The other sect members also apologized, vowing to track down the scoundrels who had sold the information. They quickly departed, leaving Soryang amazed and giving him a glimpse of the Tang clan's influence. Naively, Soryang asked if everything was now resolved. However, Wolfgang, with his seasoned experience, responded that it wasn't over yet, explaining that groups with their reputations wouldn't back down so easily. Wolfgang then instructed his men to set up camp nearby and organize shifts for keeping watch, suspecting that the sect members were hiding and waiting for the right moment to strike. He ordered one of his subordinates to gather intelligence on the enemy. Wayne, noticing Soryang's uneasy expression, reassured him with her experience, but Soryang could only think about the honey. The scene shifted to the group observing the Golden King bees from a hidden vantage point. The bees were indeed larger, about the size of small dogs. Soryang was captivated by their appearance, and Wayne admitted it was also her first time seeing such bees. The two noted how adorable the bees looked, with their golden fur making them appear even cuter. This was likely the reason they were called Golden King bees. Soryang observed that their colony seemed quite small, but reasoned that, considering their size, it made perfect sense. He explained that a small hive would usually house around 5,000 to 7,000 bees. This information caught Wayne off guard, prompting her to ask how he knew this without even entering the hive. Soryang replied that, based on his experience, he could deduce it simply by observing the number of bees entering and exiting the hive. Suddenly, someone approached them from behind. They turned to find it was the man sent to gather intelligence. He reported that he had located the sect, who had established themselves on the opposite side and appeared calm, likely waiting for the right moment to act. Wolfgang speculated that they were waiting for nightfall to use the Tang clan's technique to harvest the honey. Curious, Soryang asked about the technique. Wolfgang explained that it involved burning artemisia leaves, whose smoke would calm the bees, providing enough time to collect the honey. Soryang found the method ingenious. The scout then made an observation that left everyone tense. The wind was blowing in their direction. In the silence that followed, Soryang had an idea, pointing out that if the wind was blowing toward them, it would also mask their scent. Wayne agreed. Excited, Soryang leapt up, announcing he would make a quick visit to the hive. Wayne, alarmed, grabbed him to prevent him from approaching the venomous mid-level creatures. Holding onto his clothes, Huaying scolded him, while Soryang insisted he would only do it once. Meanwhile, they accidentally struck a stone, which bounced multiple times and landed near the tree that housed the bee colony. This left the pair frozen in terror. Before they could react, the bees poured out of the tree ready to attack. Realizing the danger, Huaying grabbed Soryang by the neck and bolted far away from the scene. After receiving a stern scolding for causing trouble, Soryang sat on a rock, deep in thought. He began pondering if there was another way to approach the situation. Lighting a fire against the wind could trap them between the sect and the hive. Additionally, he noted that these bees were different from the ones he was familiar with. They could detect vibrations from the ground several meters away. While he was lost in thought, someone approached him from behind. It was Huaying who announced she had brought the children. She explained that they had finished their meal and were wandering off. So Riyong thanked her for her concern. In a gentle tone, he asked the children to behave, and they chirped in agreement. Huaying then sat beside him, making So Riyong visibly uneasy. She asked if there had been any progress, to which he replied that he needed more time to think and observe. She apologized, admitting she might be pressuring him too much. Clearly overwhelmed, Soryang insisted it was all in her head and assured her he wasn't feeling pressured. At that moment, Wayne noticed two monkeys near the tree, seemingly in a squabble, making quite a racket near the bees. She pointed out that one of the monkeys looked particularly aggressive. Soryang suddenly caught a strange scent and quickly asked Wayne if she could smell it too. She confirmed, noting it was a sweet aroma. Horrified, Soryang explained that the scent was pheromones released by the bees, signaling an imminent swarm. Without hesitation, Wayne grabbed him and leapt away to safety. From a secure distance, she looked back astonished. A massive swarm of Golden King bees had emerged, attacking the noisy monkeys near the hive. The bees bit relentlessly, leaving the monkeys covered in painful welts. The poor creatures had no chance. Now hidden, Huan asked Soryang how he knew the bees were going to attack, even before hearing their buzzing. He explained it was the sweet scent the bees had emitted. She remarked that now that he mentioned it, the smell resembled a flower's fragrance. Before she could finish her thought, Soryang interrupted, asking if she could distinguish the pheromones and recognize the scent. She confirmed, identifying it as the scent of magnolia flowers. This revelation brought a smile to Soryang's face. As he prepared to speak further, Wayne blushed, sensing his enthusiasm. With a mischievous grin, Soryang declared that he had found the perfect solution to deal with the meddlesome rebels targeting their bees.